I have a filter here wherein it will skip the inbox and apply the label shipping spam in case the email is from either one of these email IDs. Now say that I wanted to add a new email ID to this. All I have to do is go to my Telegram app, go into shipping spam, and I can send a new email ID. Firstly, I'll try sending just one email ID. Now you can see it has been added to the filter. Now let me try sending two email IDs. We can add as many as we want with some random text in between. So the code, it will actually sort out the email IDs automatically. There you see we have the two email IDs added to the filter. Now let's check over here. We click on refresh. There we have it. We have the first email ID which we added Radiohead, then we have the two books added to the filter as well. Okay, so now let us start writing the code. Firstly, let's go to Chrome, search for Gmail API. Open this first search result. I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see better. Go over to guides, and in this quick start section you can see there is this Python. Click on Python. Okay, Python quick start, you can read all of this, that's fine, blah blah blah. Step 1, enable the Gmail API. Click on this. Now let this be desktop app. You can see there are multiple options here, that's fine. Desktop app, create. Now click on download client configuration. You can see this credentials file has been downloaded to my desktop. I will just create a new folder. I will name it shipping_spam, and I've moved this credentials.json into this folder. Okay, now next step, we click on done. Next step is to install the Google client library. Now for this, what we'll do is we'll create a virtual environment in our folder here. So let's open the command window here and type in virtual env. Okay, now we go into venv, then we go into scripts, and there is this the activate.bat file here, so we'll run that. Activate, actually even just the plain activate will do. Run it. Now you can see we have entered the virtual environment mode. Now go back over to Chrome, and you can see that we have to install the Google client library. So copy this code and paste it in here. Enter. Okay, the Google library has been installed. Next step, step 3, set up the sample. Copy this code that Google has given us. Go into your shipping spam folder. Now just open a new text file. Give it the name shipping_spam.py. Now I'll open this folder in Atom. You can choose any whatever software you like. I prefer Atom. Alright, now we copied the code from here. Now we paste the code in here. Oh, sorry, I think, yeah, we have to paste the code inside this shipping_spam.py file. Okay, I've pasted the code. One minor field we have to do here is we have to change the scopes. This one is for reading labels. For our filters, we need another scope. So you can copy it from there, add it to this list of scopes, ensure to put a comma here, and I think we are done. Define main, This is the main is a function, and it is being called from here. When you run the file name, it is equal to main, and the main function will run. The main function will come over here, and this is all default Gmail code. This portion over here, this one is authenticating your account. So just let that be. Just let everything be actually. Hit save, and now we will run this code. Let's go over to our virtual environment over here, and let me go back, cd back. Okay, now you can see I have the shipping spam file over here. I'll run this file. Alright, now I have to select my account, click on advanced. It will say it's unsafe because it's custom app. Don't worry about it. Click on allow, click on allow, and you will get this authentication is completed. So that's good. Just close this tab. Now moving on, you will see that in our shipping spam folder there is now a new file called token.pickle. This basically contains the username, password, and API authentication data. So just let that be for now. Okay, now I come into my Gmail account and I'm in the filters page, and you can see I have created a filter here which says that if an email is received from this or this email ID, the email has to be removed from the inbox and the label shipping spam is to be applied to it. I have already created the shipping spam label, so ensure that these things are done before moving on. Now let us go over to our code. You can see I'm in the shipping spam.py file. Come down here and delete this portion. We won't be needing it. What we will need is type out the code here for label in results, labels, print label. Get rid of this line. Now what this does is this calls all the labels and puts them in this variable results, and this results variable will be in dict form. So what we are doing is going inside the dict, we are picking up the key labels, and then we are printing whatever data is inside that key. So let's run this code. Screen, and let's run it. Shipping spam.py. Okay, now you can see all these labels. These are all the labels in my inbox. Now we want the label ID for our shipping spam label. So what we do is we copy this. We'll copy this and let's paste it in here. This is our label ID. Now let me just copy this code. I'll put it in the video description so you can copy it. Delete this stuff, we won't need it anymore. Delete this and paste in our code. I'll paste the code. There it is. Okay, what this code does is it gets all the filters, puts them in the dict object filters, and we are getting the filter ID. We are getting the ID for this filter. How we'll get it, I'll show you. This is the code to get that filter ID, but let me just print it out once so you can understand better. Print F. Let me comment this out. Save. Now let us run our code. This time all the filter IDs will be printed on the screen. Now what we need is the filter ID for our filter. How do we know that? We will know that if our label ID has been attached to that filter, added to that filter. So let us check this one, 5522, and yes, this is the one that we have over here. So basically what our code that I pasted in earlier, let me just undo so that code comes back here. This is the code. Basically what it does is, let me delete this line. It goes inside the filter key of filters dict, then it goes into action, add label IDs, and then it checks if add label ID is equal to our filter, our label ID. This is our label ID, this is our label ID. So when it sees that it has matched it, what we need to do is we need to assign the filter ID to a new variable, and this is my new variable name, current filter ID. Also we'll need a new variable called current email IDs, which will pick up the existing email IDs in the filter. So let's type criteria and then from. So let me just print these out for you. Current email ID, print, current filter ID. I'm just running this so that we can test that these variables have been assigned correctly. Let me see, everything looks good. Save, and let me run this code again. Firstly, our email IDs have been printed, and then our filter ID has been printed. Email IDs, filter ID. Okay, all good so far. Okay, now let us delete these two lines as we won't be needing them. And now we need to create a new file. Limit email underscore formatter.py. I'll just open it and show you what's the code inside. Again, just copy paste this. I won't be typing it out here. This basically checks if the user inputted text contains a valid email ID. It's just a very basic email ID checker that I have made, so I'm not 100% sure if it will work, but so far it has worked good. So I'll just close this and cut this file from here and paste it into our shipping spam folder. There it is. Now let's go into our shipping spam.py and import this file first of all. So we'll say from email formatter import emfmt. Let's check if the function name is correct. Yes, emfmt, that's the function name. So another thing we have to add here is in this main, add in a txt. This is an input we'll get from another code which we'll write later on. Just mention this txt in here right now. And let's go to our code over here, and again I will paste in some code here. Now let me explain this code. We'll call our emfmt function and we give the txt as a parameter. This is the user's input. It takes the input. We get a string here. This is a string object op which is being returned, and this final is a list object which is being returned. Now input, this is a string object. Input without or, this is the list of our email IDs. Now what this code over here does is checks if input is not equal to an empty string. That means if there is a new email ID detected, so if there are one or more email IDs, what will happen is a new variable, new email ID is created. The old email IDs plus a string or plus the new email IDs are added into that new email ID's string object. Otherwise, if supposing our email formatter does not find any valid email IDs, what will happen is the new email IDs variable is assigned to the same old email IDs, and we return a statement saying no new email ID email supplied, and we exit the function. Okay, so now before moving forward, let us just test if the code is running properly. What we'll do is we'll give here text variable. Please enter email ID. So it will go into text whatever input is there, and we'll send the txt variable. It will come here. It gets passed in here. We come down here, and there's a correction over here actually. There needs to be an S in the end because you can see there's an S in the end. So just correct this. Moving on, let's print new EMIDs over here, and let's print new EMIDs over here as well. Delete this, it's redundant actually. Now save it and let's run the code. Let's see if it works properly. Let's say I enter test at test.com. So as you can see, it's giving the existing email IDs as well as a new email ID. Let's run it again. This time we will not enter any email ID. We'll just put random text. And again, you can see the original email IDs are being retained. So there isn't a problem and everything is good. Okay, next, again, I'll be copy pasting the code to save on time. Sorry for that. Let's go here, let's copy this. Paste. Okay, everything is looking good. Now let me just explain what this code does. This part over here, what it does is it applies the label shipping spam to the emails that are already existing in our account. So what is happening here is, remember this input without out is a list object that we got. So for email ID in this list, we are firstly calling all the threads. Now this function over here is basically, if you type in the search function of Gmail, say you type in someone's email ID. So what you see is all the emails from or to that person. So here what I'm doing is I'm listing out all the threads, all the conversations with that specific email ID. This email ID is coming from over here. So it's executing this and everything is getting stored in this resource variable as a dict. Now I'm initiating a new empty list. Now for t in resource.getThreads, in resource, with this key, what we'll get, I'm checking if t is not equal to blank. This here is a check for, say, if there is no email from that email ID which is in our list. So this is checking that if there is no email ID in that list, it just passes on, goes back to for and checks the next email ID. But say the email ID is present, the email is present in our account from that email ID. What will happen is we will append the thread ID of that specific email to this list, empty list. Next, we will initiate this variable called payload, which is basically a dict in this form. This is the key, a list value. This is our label of shipping spam. This is the label ID of shipping spam. So this is just a key value. Key is label ID. The value is our shipping spam label ID. Another key is remove label ID and value is inbox. This we'll use in this part of the code. For t in threads is this list, the list containing all the new email IDs in our that we have received from the user. What here we are doing is modifying any thread which has a thread ID which matches to this. So any thread ID which matches, we perform the action. This body is basically action and we are passing on this JSON object kind of variable to it. The action is add label ID shipping spam and remove label ID inbox and execute finally. So basically what this does is it applies the shipping spam label to all the emails present in the inbox. Moving on, now we create the new filter. Again, we initiate this variable payload with in a dict format. We have from criteria is from field new email IDs. This is the old email IDs plus the new email IDs, and we are giving it an action of add label ID shipping spam. This is the shipping spam label ID. I'm sorry, this is incorrect. This is the label ID of shipping spam, and again we are removing label ID inbox. So basically this is again the payload which we are passing on to this filters.create action. User ID me is just a shortcut of it's a Gmail syntax. We can use me instead of our own email address here. Body is again the action. What we are doing is, if there is any criteria, is if there is any email from these email IDs, apply the action add label IDs and remove the label inbox. Execute it. Finally, we are see what this did was it basically created a duplicate filter. Our original filter had say 2 email IDs. Now this contains 3 or 4 email IDs, this filter. So to delete the original filter, we are running this command, filters.delete. ID, we are supplying it of the original filter. You remember we took this over here. Current filter ID is equal to FID. So finally we are using it in the end over here. We are telling the Gmail API to delete this filter ID. So this does that, and in the end we are returning a string saying that these new IDs have been added to the filter. This is a list object that I am passing here instead of the string object. The string object will contain ORs in between, this OR. So it looks a bit odd in the message that we return. So I have chosen to instead return a simple list. Okay, now before moving forward, let us just test our code. I'll comment this out. Let me test this portion of the code firstly. Let's go over to Chrome. Now you can see there's my inbox. I have these 2 email IDs, this and this is same, and this one. So 2 email IDs that I need to apply the filter shipping spam. As you can see, this is the shipping spam label. Currently the label is empty. So let's run our code. Shipping spam. Let me shipping spam.py. Okay, I've got the emails in my clipboard, so I pasted them and I got an error. Now I ran through this earlier and I saw that it said insufficient permission. So that means I forgot to add another scope. I need to add another scope URL into this. Sorry for that. So basically, firstly we'll have to go into our shipping spam folder and we have to delete this token.pickle file. Delete it. Close this. Go to Chrome. Search for API Gmail threads. Managing threads, Gmail API, references, and go into threads, modify. Now the reason why I came to this page is because you can see over here the problem we are facing is in line 67, this one, threads.modify. So that's how I figured out that I need permission for this command. And if you click here on requires authorization, it shows you the scopes. Let's just add this one. This one is a very totally it gives a lot of permission, so try not to use that. Use the one underneath it, and let's copy it and paste it over here as a string. Okay, put a comma between them, save it. Now let us run it. Now the thing is, it will authorize the Gmail API again, so we'll probably get so we have to again authorize it. Go into advanced, go to okay, allow, and we are good. Let's go back over here. Let's see. Let me see over here. Okay, the labels haven't been applied to the emails because I did not enter the correct email address. Let's run our code again. Now I paste in the email IDs, hit enter. Now we should have the emails in here. Alright, and you can see from the inbox they'll disappear, gone. So our code is working so far. Now you might have noticed that I got some output over here. That's because I was trying to debug it earlier and I put in a few print commands. So let me just delete them. You don't need to do anything because you probably won't have these in your code. You definitely won't have these in your code. Okay, I removed those print commands. Now the next thing to do is to test this part of the code. Let me uncomment it. This is a comment. So okay, now it is looking good. Okay, now as you can see, this is my existing filter. I'll just refresh the page. Right, so these two email IDs are present currently, and we need to add. Alright, so there's a full list of email IDs. I'll copy them from here and I'll run my code again. Now it's asking for enter new email ID. I'll paste in the email IDs and it's done. So basically these had already been applied earlier. Then there's this one more new email that I had sent and it has been applied to it. Like this was the email which I received and it's been applied the new shipping label. In the filters, you will see now that we have 4 more email IDs. Right, test 1, test 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 new email IDs in here. Now, 2 of these, I think this one and this one, I'll just send a new mail right now. You can see in my inbox, there's nothing. Now let me send this mail to myself and let's see if it works. Okay, so nothing should come in the inbox, but in the shipping spam there should be a new email. That's it, we got it. Now let's test this one too. This is send message. Your message has been sent. Now we should get another. Fine, so the code is working good. So now our Gmail side of the code is basically done. Let me just make a tiny bit of change over here. We won't need this. That is for older Python versions. And let me change this function name to spammer. Let me change it to spammer. Save. That's it. Now here our basic application is done. So if you wanted to run the application from Windows, that's it for here. But we want to integrate it with Telegram. So let's move further. I'll delete this line over here. Save it. Now we need to go into our CMD and again go inside the virtual environment. You have to activate the virtual environment when scripts and activate. Alright, we're inside here. Now we need to install requests library and Flask. These are needed by Telegram. Alright, now let's go into Atom and we'll create in the same folder a new file called main.py. So the file has been created and we'll paste in some code. This is, we're importing JSON, importing requests, importing shipping spam. This is our own, this file over here, shipping_spam. We're importing the function spammer from it. Flask, we're importing the Flask class, the request method, and the response class from Flask. Now we need to also create a token which will hold our Telegram bots ID.